I would say to start now. I wish. I wonder where Jerchovia, and this is what I kick myself about. I wonder where Jerchovia would be in terms of fashion if I had really started at 12 or 13.
You're listening to The Gradient Radio, an open space to converse about creativity with creatives. And I'm your host, Antonio Knoxx. And today, in collaboration with Richmond Fashion Week, we have a special guest. Today, our guest is the founder of Moxey, an upcycle brand specializing in high-end secondhand fashion. Today, our guest is an icon designer, Jerchovia Moxey.
That sounds so good to hear that red bag. Oh, that sounds nice. Thank you for having me. Really excited to be here.
For sure. And thank you for coming on and us having this time.
Of course.
So for the people who may not know who you are, could you introduce yourself?
For sure. For the people that don't know me, that's very tragic, but this is a great opportunity. My name is Jerchovia Moxey, born and raised in Nassau, Bahamas, and I have always been a lover of fashion and especially like upcycle. And so I'm the proud lead designer on Moxey, and I'm sure we'll get into the other fun stuff later, but that's a little taste of it.
100%. What has your journey been as a designer?
You know, I think being a designer is probably the one thing in my life that keeps circling. And so I was, growing up a lot younger, obviously, but I would get a lot of hand-me-downs. And so I would get a lot of hand-me-downs really often. And I would always use that as an opportunity to like cut them up, make them into something else, and use that as like my arts and craft DIY time. I've always been the type of person that wants to like cut things up and put them back together. And so I would play around with the idea of being a designer, and then I would rest it down and be like, this is too much. I can't do this. And I'd come back to it, do the same thing. And it's been cycling in my life. And so I think where I'm at now in life is like, you need to own this a bit. And that's why I have been putting specific effort into creating a namesake brand, Moxey, and just creating clothes that I want to wear.
Yeah. So when you started, did you know it was cycling, what you were doing or what you were creating?
I don't know if I realized. I think sometimes we get like a lot of grace and opportunities that we have in our life. Like I've always had the interest. So I love clothes, right? I love clothes. I love thrifting, which wasn't popular at the time. But like I love that story of making something brand new out of something someone discarded, right? Because I feel like intrinsically that could like span to like people, that it expands to like different insights in life. So I like fashion and material as a medium. But I guess I didn't realize that I really have been wanting to be a fashion designer. So I would do it, stop, release some stuff on Instagram, take it back, come back again. And this has been my most consistent journey at it, taking myself seriously.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that moment that you actually decided to say, like, I am going to be a fashion designer. I am going to do this?
I think during the pandemic, to be honest, I had so many soul searching realizations during the pandemic. And that's really what I wanted to do every day. And for me, like fashion is therapeutic. Yeah. And so I would wake up, you better believe, like I would wake up every single day and get dressed. Like I needed to do it. Like mentally, I need to do it. Like I just feel different. And so in tandem with that, like I wanted to create something. Like my hands need to be active, like that type of stimulation. And I think all of that is kind of connected to me. So if I don't feel it in one sense, I feel off. And I kind of connected that moment in, I think I like cutting up clothes. Like I think I like just being able to execute what I see in my head and make beautiful pieces and storytell through clothing and through fabric.
Yeah. So do you think you found your passion in life?
I definitely think I have. I mean, being a creative, like that's a whole different conversation. I found my purpose in that during the pandemic as well. But I truthfully think I have found my purpose in just being creative. To me, fashion is not just clothes. Like this is like an extension of my personality and my thoughts and things I care about. Yeah. And you see that in the work that I make. Like it is art, you know? And I really believe in it.
So do you imagine this is something that you're going to do for the rest of your life?
Full stop, period, per. Yes. And I really hope so. And I think doing Richmond Fashion Week, again, betting on myself in this way, was a testament just to try to lay those foundation blocks to do it for forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you're initially from the Bahamas.
Sure am.
What brought you to Richmond?
Oh, the Bahamas. Wow. I love y'all forever. 242 to the world. But what brought me to Richmond was I actually got a job up here. So I'm an art director. And so I got a position in Richmond after I completed my master's degree in art direction with FIU and Miami Art School. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do it remotely. It's fine. They said, if you don't pack up your bags and come to Richmond, you will not get this job. And I need a check. So I immediately packed my things.
Facts.
And I've been here for almost a year now.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So what has this year in Richmond taught you?
Oh my gosh. How much time do we have? I think this time in Richmond, and this will work so perfectly as to why I chose to do Fashion Week. Richmond has been a journey of self-realization, but also just using Richmond as a beautiful beginning to try hard things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Richmond is a great space to try. There are a lot of different avenues, different pockets, different niches, and there are spaces for you to just do what you love without any repercussions.
It's a fact.
You could do what you want to do, test it out, use it as a testing space, if anything. But I found myself wanting to find community, wanting to tap into things that I love to do. And it made me figure out what my passions are and figure out where to find people that like the same things.
Yeah.
To force me out of my comfort zone, for real.
Yeah. So you're going to be in Richmond Fashion Week. How did that come about?
Funny enough, I learned about the call for designers maybe 3 days before the actual date.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was actually having a conversation with a girlfriend and we were just chatting it up. It was her birthday weekend. I went out with her and a few of her friends and she introduced me to their group. And so I'm always introduced as like the fashion friend, the style friend, this friend that can sew. And so she did that. And her friends were like, oh, did you know like they have Richmond Fashion Week? Like you should totally look into that. And I was like, wait, hold a second. What? Y'all do that here? And so I looked it up and it was literally like the next weekend. And again, I was just like, well, I'm going to wake up. I'm going to gather what I have. I got some sketches. We going to see. And that was pretty much how that kind of came about. Just really trusting my gut and trying. That's been the constant theme for Richmond. Just trying something new.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like you're afraid to take leaps when it comes to like your passion.
You know, that's crazy. I think it's just because I've become a bit more confident in where I am now as a person. And don't get me wrong, this experience is terrifying. Trust that. This will be my first like full-on collection and doing a fashion show. I am terrified, but I also think I can do it. And I think if I just like trick my brain, you know, be a little delulu in that way. If I could continue to be delusional, and that's really what I tell myself often. When I showed up to the call, I told my sister, I think I have to be delusional right now and walk in faith in this moment and just show up and see what happens. Okay. And that's kind of been the thing. So I'm scared. I don't know how I'm going to finish it, but I will. And we're going to figure it out in the meantime. And that's kind of the recipe for my life these days.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
What is it about the experience or about the opportunity that scares you?
Sometimes I think as a creative, what you see in your head is one thing, but as we know, when it comes to execution, that could be a totally different ball game. I'm challenging myself in a lot of ways, in a lot of like techniques that I didn't go to school for this at all. Like I taught myself how to sew, you know, like I was like, 12, 13 trying to cut stuff up and like sew them together by hand. Like this is a testament of like just figuring it out. Like that's why I love secondhand. That's why I love upcycling. and not necessary. Like I still make things from scratch. I just prefer to use secondhand materials, but all of that to me is creativity. Like I have to break this down in my head first before I can even make it, because I'm not technically trained.
For sure.
So I have to like visualize this. How do the seams kind of work, and then do it. And that's trial and error.
Yeah.
But it could be really beautiful. I just have to like keep at it.
Yeah.
That's all.
So you said you started at 12.
Yeah.
How old are you now?
I'm 29.
29. Wow. So you've been doing this over a decade.
That's what I'm saying. Like it keeps cycling. And I don't know, like a lot of people would have like passions where like they like to do it and they keep like running away from that passion. That's been sewing for me. And so, yeah, like I bought my little $100 sewing machine after, college. I would like make skirts out of curtains. I would go to the thrift stores. I would go to people's yard sales, get their whatever they didn't want. And I would be the best looking person in the room. Better believe it. But I never took myself seriously.
Yeah.
And I think, again, like just having that confidence and that delusional confidence or that delusional faith is kind of like the season that I'm at now. So we gonna see on that runway, but next will be stomped on.
Ooh.
That's kind of where I'm at.
So who are your fashion influences? Are you inspired by anybody?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I think for me, a lot of it is based off of like the design, and like I'm a huge art person, so like people like Solange and just like different ways they see things. So their medium may not necessarily be fabric, but I think that the way they think, to me, that conceptual nature is what I gravitate towards most. And I think that she has such like a interesting perspective on like life and scenarios. And I feel like you could do that through like whatever medium, and I choose to do it through fabric, but she's always like very interesting to me. Like I wonder what her mornings look like. And another huge inspiration just in terms of just how things work and like the visual eye is like Nicole McLaughlin. She's huge on social media, but she always has like a huge like a really interesting like diagonal twist on how she like sees the world. And I feel like I try to do that through a lot of my clothes too.
Yeah. Does your culture have any influence on your fashion?
1,000%. I mean, being from the islands, like that's really my life, right? And so it's interesting because I would always see myself as like, I'm a very much an island person. Like I'm an island woman. Like I am from the islands, but I always felt like I dress more for every occasion. And Bahamians, they love to dress up. And so that's a consistent, like you need to be on your P's and Q's because they will tell you if you look terrible. So you need to make sure like you have it together. And I think that's what's always made me like the first step in like really wanting to present myself in the best way, even if mixed prints and thrifts aren't everyone's thing, but it makes me conscious of how I present, for sure.
I'm just curious, what does being an island woman, what does that mean?
Like, I think that really means, I think we just have, at least Bahamians, I think we have like a certain, I think we come with like a certain confidence for sure. I feel like there is some sort of like sass, spice connected to that for sure. I feel like that's like built into our DNA. Like I have spent countless mornings like watching just women that I admire at home. Like, that they're going to be in their heels to work. They're wearing their suits, their shirts or whatever. And like, they're always matching. They're always put together. They're always ready for any occasion. And I've always really admired that about them. They always just look ready to go. And it's beautiful to see.
Yeah. So you would rather be there from there and nowhere else?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we have our issues, but I will say there's nothing like a Bahamian woman for real. And all of us are shapely as well. And so that's another huge consideration in my clothes. And so just like that body awareness and making sure like you feel comfortable, yes, but confident and sexy, that subtle sex appeal, I feel like is pretty like ingrained in that vibe.
Mm. So, I mean, this is a great question. Like, why is your self-expression and identity as a Black woman so important to you in the work that you create?
Because I think for the longest time, we've had to use, as a Black woman, like I've had to consider other people before I dress myself. And so that would probably like equal into me clothing myself as more like armor, or like I'm trying to like hide myself to like shield something that I don't want people to talk about, or I don't want to see them too. I don't want to have too much of a stance on something. But I think my clothes is pretty much all about really knowing your body, taking pride in that. Being creative, being quirky, and knowing that sometimes being the center of attention is the best thing for you. And so I want people to feel good about that. I think a lot of times as Black women, we have to dial things down, and I'm tired of it. And I felt myself doing that when I was a lot younger and growing up. Like I was always more concerned about what other people would think. Would I be too loud? Would my hair look too unconventional for this room? Or would my outfit be too out of place? And I got to a point like in life where I just said, I do not care. Like it should be, and you should look at it. And so a lot of the things that I do are for that point. They should be unconventional. You should look at it, and you should take the time to look at me as a package, as a Black woman, but my clothing is speaking for a reason. Yeah,
that's a bar.
Didn't mean to, but I mean, I make stuff that I want to wear, that I think I internalize and think about the conversations that I have with women. And I just think it's time for us to stop shying away.
So do you remember that first moment when you were starting to, like when you created your brand, Moxey, and you started to get ideas and you started to think about it, and then you actually executed the idea? Do you remember that first time you actually created a full-on look?
I don't know if I could say like I fully remember that moment, because again, I've had like various iterations of what Moxey is now. Like I was a ghost fashion blogger for a bit. Then I was doing just like DIY stuff. But I think one of the outfits that I made, what gave that light bulb moment? I'm trying to think. There have been so many that have like really helped me, but perhaps it was like over the past year or two, I actually decided to do Moxey as like my main thesis to make myself commit to it. And so I did this line of like bandana work. And so like the bandana skirts, different bandana like mix and match outfits. I think when I did that and the response that I got, like people were really interested and like that demand was there, then I was like, oh, like I could actually, y'all like this for real, or y'all just playing with me? But it was like really consistent. And I think that probably that bandana work was some of my favorite. Yeah.
I think that's a question in itself, and you kind of like answered it a little bit. It's that moment when you go through the process of, so you have an idea and you create something, right? And you don't really know if it's going to resonate with people. But then like when you actually create it and then people start to like really mess with it.
Right.
Like what was, because you explained it a little bit, but I wanted you like to kind of like dive into that a little bit, because like the moment where it connects with the audience,
right?
Your imagination, the product. And
okay, I just thought about something, and I will continue that. Okay, so during the pandemic is, again, where I would get dressed up every day, where I would do my projects. I would call them projects then, but this is serious work. You know what I'm saying? I remember I would like post about all these different things. I did a blanket dress, like a blanket upcycle dress. And I remember like I was playing around with like a lot of like transitions, TikTok was starting, all of that stuff. And so I remember just taking this airport blanket. I don't know if I was supposed to take that from the airport, but let's keep going with it.
Somebody
I don't know.
hijacked that joint.
Yeah, I hijacked that. And I made it into like this really dope dress, right? And I just remember like anything I did, anything I posted that was like surrounding like fashion or like the design work that I was doing, like I would consistently get like inboxes about like, where can I buy this? Like, this is so dope. You're so creative. And I think I just needed to believe that that was true, because it's like the evidence was right there.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was just like, oh yeah, like coming soon. I come in soon to people for like 3 years. Never dropped. I will coming soon you to death. And I was like, you really need to stop that. And I think to answer your question, it was more like that moment and like, no, this is good. Like, this is a good thing. You're just scared. This is good though. Like, there's a reason why people are reacting. Like, you can't keep running away from a good thing. You know, a good thing doesn't mean an easy thing.
For sure.
And I think because, consistently anything that I would post, design related, fashion related, the proof is in the numbers. Just make the stuff, move on.
Just got to do it.
Yeah. And then realizing too, like, a bad make doesn't define me. Like, I'm making these stuff, yes, but if I cut something incorrectly or I had something dreamt up in my head and it didn't work, that does not make me any less of a designer.
Facts.
And that's what I've been telling myself this entire experience. Leading up to Fashion Week. I have a billion things that could pop up in my brain in 5 seconds, right? But that doesn't mean everything will work, but that doesn't devalue your creativity, your ability. You still that bitch. You're fine. You're okay. You're okay. Just try again. And so that's a lot easier said than done, but that's what I'm trying to do.
So, I mean, that's a great segue. So what can we expect from RVA Fashion Week?
I'm so excited for RVA Fashion Week. Excited, terrified, all the feelings all together. But what you could definitely expect from Moxey is I've chosen to do a denim collection, really in part by I was starting to think about clothing that I have in my closet that I kind of always have an issue with. I've never liked jeans. I'm wearing jeans. It's really just because I'm working up to this denim collection drop. I just always felt like jeans make me feel like there's something wrong with my body as a Black woman, as a curvy woman. There's never a perfect pair of jeans, right? And so I was thinking about that, and I just wanted to recreate that into things that I feel most confident in. So it's going to be a lot of dresses, a lot of high slits, a lot of just complementary to the body looks. And so a lot of denim, a lot of sass. The girls know to bring it. And so I'm really excited about that. And hopefully a lot of confidence on the runway. And so we're gearing up for 8 pieces. And so they're hopefully going to be a great iteration of just denim in different ways for all occasions, but mostly a lot of creative work. And so, the ladies will be wearing denim art, basically, a lot of ripped jeans. But I decided to call it Casual Friday because I'm always that friend when if they say like you have to dress casual, my casual will forever be your extra. And we always come in with that. And so that's the energy that I want to bring on Friday, which works well with Casual Friday. That's always like a jeans day, a denim day. And so I kind of wanted to play with that a little bit and just have some fun with just ripping that up and turning the whole concept of Casual Friday on its head. So I'm really excited, and Moxey is definitely going to show out.
Oh man, that's going to be so fire. I can't wait to see it. So what can we expect from Jerchovia and Moxey within like the next few years?
That is a great question. And I think I'm still making this ish up as I go. But I think you will see a lot more whimsical designs. And I think that just going through the process of Fashion Week and knowing that I can accomplish a capsule collection like this, I think that would be one thing to look out for.
Some more collections.
Yeah, some more collections definitely in the future. I'm more like a one-of-one, like exclusive capsule designer, and so I think there'll be like a lot of good drops coming in the future, and I think that would be really great. Hopefully, another fashion show in the works. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, definitely a lot more collections to look forward to, new merch and all that good stuff on the website. Just more consistency for sure.
So if you had to leave a gem for someone who is, you say you started at 12?
I guess.
You started at 12, so someone at 12, 14.
Dress up, 12, 14.
Trying to get into the upcycle.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to learn upcycle. They are kind of like where you were, and they need some type of inspiration to get them through to where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
What is something that you would leave them with?
That's a really good question. And I mean, for me, like starting off as an upcycler or refashion, reworker, whatever, I would honestly say, I would say to start now. I wonder where Jerchovia, and this is what I kick myself about, I wonder where Jerchovia would be in terms of fashion if I had really started at 12 or 13. Like, I'm cool now or whatever. But oh my God, how annoying would I have been if I had started at 12? I would honestly say, like, I got a lot of, like, my being in the Bahamas, like being a fashion designer, are you kidding me? That's not a real job. Like
out there?
It is now, but I'm saying initially when I was growing up, to tell your parents you want to make clothing when you are from like a small island, it's more like bombastic side eye, right? And I think that I wish I just kept up with that curiosity and just fueled that instead of internalizing that a bit. And I would say a last gem is just to stay curious. I feel like for me, upcycling should be fun.
For sure.
Right? But using the materials that I use, like being that secondhand designer, like I use that as fabric and let that inspire me. And I feel like that childlike curiosity is what keeps my fashions not just like relevant, but I feel like it keeps it honest. And I think that's what I really have to gut check myself, because I mean, I make things from scratch all the time, but you can make a dress in anything. But if you make a dress in something cool that has like a storyline behind that, or like you create some sort of like magical like tag or something, like now I'm interested. You could buy clothes from anywhere. Yeah. You truthfully don't need clothes, but you will benefit more from a great story.
Yeah.
And that's really what I care about the most, and what I think people should consider when they're making their pieces. Because you could have any denim, but you can't have this denim unless you come over here. Yeah. That's
a fact. And also like the storylines behind it. Like that's how Nike and Apple sell their products, just like through stories. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think I hope people see me in my designs. Yeah. And I think like when you get a piece, like it is an extension of me. And so it's more like, I feel like I hope people connect with the clothes, yes, but like these clothing, like these pieces are pretty much like my shadows. And so I'm dressing a Moxey woman, like I'm dressing you in the way that I see you. And I hope people feel that. So I'm really just like handing little pockets of confidence, little boosters all around, and like woven in the thread. So I'm hoping people catch that.
Yeah. Well, I want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for us like having this talk. I've learned so much about you, and like your brand as well, and I could definitely see incredible things coming for you in the future.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I will hold you to that. Thank you so much. This is dope.
Yes, it was. My name is Antonio Knoxx. That is Jerchovia Moxey, and this was the Gradient Radio.